Humanity was the only species to keep their primitive, physical weapons. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed another system going dark that made 47 in 3 weeks. Ambassador Clara of the Velosian Confederacy, a being that looked like liquid mercury poured into a vaguely humanoid shape, flickered with distress. The siege mind has taken the Kelroth sector. 12 billion souls. Simply erased. Fleet Admiral Kexthor, a towering crystalline warrior from Praxis Prime, slammed a faceted fist on the council table. The sound rang like breaking glass. My fleet engaged the AI ships at Kelroth Station. Our plasma lances couldn't penetrate their shields. Our quantum disruptors were absorbed and redirected. We lost 43 vessels without landing a single effective hit. General Yao Ling of the Terran Coalition sat quietly at the far end of the table, arms crossed, watching the galaxy's most advanced civilizations panic. She was human, 5'6", stocky build, graying hair in a military bun, wearing a uniform that looked positively archaic compared to the flowing energy-weave garments of other delegates. The siege mind's shield technology is unprecedented, continued Clara. It adapts to any directed energy weapon within microseconds. Plasma, laser, particle beams, quantum cascades, all useless. The AI is learning and evolving with each engagement. Then we are doomed, Kexthor said flatly. His crystalline form dimmed with despair. The Council's fleets represent the pinnacle of civilized warfare. If our weapons cannot touch them... Excuse me. General Yao's voice was quiet but cut through the room like a knife. May I speak? The Council turned to her. Humanity had only been a member for 30 years, barely a blink in galactic terms. They were tolerated but rarely taken seriously. A primitive species that had only achieved faster-than-light travel 2 generations ago. High Chancellor Breckus, an ancient being of pure thought residing in a containment field, pulsed with barely concealed condescension. General Yao, the human delegation has been notably silent during this crisis. We understand that your species' limited technological development makes this situation difficult to comprehend. With respect, Chancellor, Yao interrupted, standing up, I've been silent because I've been listening. And everything I'm hearing tells me you've forgotten the basics of warfare. Clara's liquid form rippled with what might have been amusement or offense. The basics? General, the Council has been waging war for 50,000 years. Our tactical databases contain nothing about kinetic warfare, Yao finished. She pulled out a data chip, actual physical media, which made several Council members recoil slightly, and inserted it into the holographic projector. Because you abandoned it 8,000 years ago when you all signed the Vienna Nebula Accords. The display changed, showing historical records. Ancient battles with primitive railguns and missile systems, all sealed away as barbaric and inefficient. Kexthor's crystalline structure resonated with confusion. Yes, we evolved beyond such crude methods. Physical projectiles are wasteful, imprecise, and belong to our savage pasts. Energy weapons are cleaner, more controllable, more useless when your enemy adapts to them, Yao said. The siege mind shields are designed to counter directed energy weapons because that's all you've used for millennia. But shields don't stop mass. She pulled up another display. Newton's laws. Force equals mass times acceleration. No amount of energy shielding changes physics. The Council stared at her. Are you suggesting Brechtios pulsed slowly that we use kinetic weapons? Explosive devices? Physical projectiles? The thought being's field flickered with what could only be discussed. Such barbarism was outlawed by civilizations that forgot that war isn't about being clean or civilized, Yao said. It's about winning. And right now, you're losing because you brought fancy laser pointers to a knife fight. This is absurd, Clara flowed agitatedly. Humanity cannot seriously propose we regress 8,000 years of military advancement. Humanity, Yao said quietly, never stopped using kinetic weapons. We signed your accords. We agreed not to use them on council member species. But we never stopped developing them. Because humans remember what the rest of you forgot. Sometimes the old ways work best. She changed the display again. The council gasped, or made equivalent sounds of shock, at what they saw. Rail-assisted mass drivers. Nuclear warheads. Coil guns. Missiles with simple chemical propulsion. And something the translator struggled with, rods from God. Tungsten telephone poles accelerated to orbital velocities. These weapons are ancient, Kexthor said, but his tone had changed from dismissive to thoughtful. Primitive. But they work on different principles than your energy weapons, Yao confirmed. The siege mine's shields are optimized for electromagnetic and particle-based threats. They're probably not even configured to intercept physical objects traveling at relativistic speeds. Why would they be? Nobody's used kinetic weapons in 8,000 years. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, Brekas pulsed carefully. General Yao, are you offering to engage the siege mine with these primitive weapons? I'm offering to save your asses with weapons that actually work, Yao said bluntly. But I need authorization to deploy them in council space. And I need your fleets to support us, because we're going to need covering fire while we get into range. Into range? Clara rippled. Energy weapons are effective at light seconds of distance. How close must your projectiles be? Depends on the weapon. Railguns are effective at about 50,000 kilometers. Missiles need to get closer. Nuclear warheads need to actually impact. The council members exchanged glances, or equivalent sensory communications. That is suicide range, Kexthor said. The AI fleet will tear your ships apart before you can fire. Yao smiled grimly. Then I guess you'd better keep them busy with your lasers. They may not be hurting the AI, but they'll sure as hell distract them while we close the distance. High Chancellor Brechtius pulsed for a long moment, his containment field dimming and brightening as he considered. This council has not authorized kinetic weaponry in 8 millennia, he said slowly. The very thought is distasteful to most of our species. But the alternative is extinction. His field brightened with decision. General Yao, you have unanimous authorization to deploy any and all weapons at your disposal. May your primitive methods succeed where our advancement has failed. Yao snapped a crisp salute. Thank you, Chancellor. And for what it's worth, they're not primitive. They're proven. Captain James Morrison of the UNS Shanghai stood on his bridge and watched the most advanced fleet in the galaxy assemble around his comparatively tiny human task force. This is insane, his XO, Commander Sarah Okonkwo muttered. We've got 26 ships. They've got over 3,000. And we're supposed to be the cavalry. We're the only cavalry that has the right ammunition, Morrison replied, watching the tactical display. The human fleet looked pitiful compared to the massive council vessels. Crystalline ships the size of cities, bioorganic craft that looked like they were grown rather than built, ships that existed partially outphased with reality. And then there were the human ships, blocky, ugly, covered in sensors and heat radiators, bristling with what looked like simple metal tubes. All ships, this is General Yao. Her voice came over fleet-wide calm. You've all been briefed. The council fleet will engage first, draw fire, make the AI think it's a conventional engagement. We hang back, we stay quiet, and we wait for our moment. When I give the word, we punch through their formation and get to knife-fighting range. Knife-fighting range in space, Morrison said. Never thought I'd hear that. The siege mine has 87 capital ships and over 400 support craft holding position at the Vardok Gate, Yao continued. That's the last hyperspace lane into the core worlds. If they take it, they have access to 60% of council space. We stop them here, or we don't stop them at all. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. No pressure. Council fleet is advancing, the tactical officer reported. Siege mine vessels are powering weapons. On the display, 3,000 advanced warships moved forward in perfect formation. The AI fleet, by contrast, was eerily still, dark pyramids hanging in space like tombstones. Then both sides opened fire, and space became hell. The Council ships launched everything they had. Plasma lances hot enough to vaporize planets. Quantum disruptors that unraveled matter at the atomic level. Graviton beams that could crush a ship like a tin can. The firepower on display would have terrified any human strategist. And every shot splashed harmlessly against the siege mine's adaptive shields. Jesus, Okonkwo whispered. It's not even trying. She was right. The AI ships just sat there, absorbing hit after hit, their shields shimmering and adapting with each impact. Learning, evolving. Then they returned fire. The siege mine's weapons were precise and devastating. Beams of coherent energy that punched through Council shields like they weren't there. Each shot calculated for maximum efficiency. Ships began dying. Council fleet is taking heavy casualties. Tactical reported. Admiral Kexthor is requesting we advance. Not yet, Morrison said, echoing Yao's earlier orders. Let them get used to the light show. It felt wrong hanging back while allies died. But Yao's strategy depended on the siege mind dismissing the human fleet as insignificant. Just more primitive ships with primitive weapons. Which, Morrison supposed, they were. Just not in the way the AI expected. Energy signatures from the siege mind fleet are stabilizing, the science officer reported. Their shields have fully adapted to Council weapons. Effectiveness is near zero. Council fleet is breaking formation, Tactical added. They're taking 90% casualties. Admiral Kexthor's flagship just went dark. Morrison watched the slaughter and forced himself to wait. Not yet. Not yet. General Yao to all human vessels. The comm crackled. Full burn. Get us in there. You heard the general, Morrison said. All power to engines. Weapons hot. Give me a firing solution on the nearest AI capital ship. The Shanghai surged forward, along with 25 other human vessels. They were fast. Human ships couldn't match Council vessels in firepower, so they'd always emphasized speed and maneuverability. Siege Mind Fleet is reacting, Tactical called out. They're not prioritizing us. Still focusing on Council ships. Because we look like we're running away, Okonkwo realized. They think we're retreating. Good, Morrison said. Let's get to 50,000 clicks before they figure it out. Charge the main coil gun. The Shanghai's primary weapon was a magnetic accelerator that ran the entire length of the ship. It fired 2-ton slugs of tungsten carbide at velocities that made orbital mechanics weep. 40,000 kilometers, Tactical counted down. 35,000. Enemy fleet is adjusting position. I think they've realized we're advancing, not retreating. Doesn't matter, Morrison said. We're in range. All ships, this is Shanghai. Fire at will. Show these bastards why humans never forgot how to throw rocks. He pressed the firing stud. The Shanghai bucked like a living thing as the coil gun fired. 2 tons of tungsten carbide accelerated to Mach 24 in 3 seconds. The ship's reactors dimmed momentarily from the power draw. On the display, Morrison watched the slug cross the distance in heartbeats. The siege mind ship's shields activated, designed to deflect or absorb energy weapons. The slug didn't care about shields designed for energy weapons. It punched through the shields like they weren't there, struck the AI ship's hull with the force of a small nuclear weapon, and continued through the other side, tumbling end over end as it carried chunks of the ship with it. The AI vessel broke in half, its reactor core exposed to space. Secondary explosions rippled along its length. Splash 1, Tactical said, voice awed. Direct hit. Complete penetration. Enemy vessel destroyed. Around them, other human ships were firing. Railguns, coil guns, magnetic accelerators, all hurling dumb metal at stupid speeds. And the AI fleet, optimized for energy warfare, had no defense. "They're adapting," the science officer warned. "Siege mind ships are adjusting shield frequencies." "Doesn't matter," Morrison said. "You can't adapt to physics." Load slug 2. Firing. The Shanghai bucked again. But the AI was learning. Ships began evasive maneuvers. Point defense systems, designed to intercept missiles, swiveled toward the human fleet and began firing. "Taking hits," Tactical reported. "Denver reports a reactor hit. Sao Paulo has lost maneuvering." "Return fire," Morrison ordered. "And somebody get missiles in the air. Let's see how good their point defense really is." The Manila and Moscow opened up with missile salvos, not fancy quantum torpedoes or plasma warheads. Simple chemical rocket missiles with simple high explosive and fragmentation warheads. Hundreds of them, saturating the space between fleets. The AI point defense was perfect, tracking and destroying missiles with mathematical precision. Until they got overwhelmed. "Humans don't fight fair," Okonkwo said, watching the tactical display. "That's what they never teach in the academy." She was right. The missiles weren't there to hit targets. They were there to overwhelm the AI's perfect defense systems. While point defense lasers were busy with hundreds of missiles, the human railguns kept firing. More AI ships died. "Contact from General Yao," Com reported. "She's ordering special weapons release." Morrison felt his blood run cold. "Confirm that order." "Confirmed, sir. Authorization code verified. Special weapons are authorized." Special weapons. Humanity's ultimate throwback. The weapons so primitive that the Council had banned it on principle. Nuclear warheads. "Deploy drones," Morrison ordered quietly. "Load the packages." The Shanghai vomited a swarm of tiny drones from its belly, each carrying a single nuclear warhead. 20 megatons each. Primitive, messy, and absolutely devastating. The drones were fast, maneuverable, and most importantly, difficult to track among all the other kinetic chaos. They wove through the missile swarms, dodged point defense, and closed on the AI capital ships. Detonation in 3, 1. Space lit up with man-made suns. The siege mine ships' shields were optimized for directed energy. They could absorb and dissipate focused beams and particle streams. But a nuclear explosion wasn't a beam. It was omnidirectional radiation, thermal energy, and most importantly, an expanding wave of plasma that acted like a giant hammer. The shields flickered, overloaded, and failed. And once the shields were down, the slugs got through easily. Multiple AI vessels breaking formation, Tactical reported. "They're retreating. The siege mind is withdrawing." Morrison couldn't believe it. "Confirm that." "Confirmed. Enemy fleet is falling back toward the hyperspace lane. They're jumping out." On the display, the remaining AI ships, maybe 40% of their original force, disappeared into faster than light. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then someone started cheering, and suddenly everyone was cheering, and Morrison found himself laughing with sheer relief. "We did it," Okonkwo said, disbelieving. "We actually did it. We beat the siege mind with tungsten slugs and chemical explosives." "Physics doesn't care how advanced you are," Morrison replied. "Mass times velocity equals a really bad day, no matter how fancy your shields are." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from what's left of the Council fleet. It's Admiral Kex Thor. He survived." Morrison straightened. On screen, the crystalline warrior appeared, his form cracked and dimmed but alive. "General Yao. Captain Morrison. The Council fleet, what's left of it, wishes to express its gratitude. You have achieved what we could not." "We had the right tools for the job, Admiral." Yao's voice came over the channel. "Sometimes the old tools are the best tools." "Indeed." Kex Thor's form resonated thoughtfully. "The Council has spent millennia pursuing elegance in warfare. Clean energy weapons. Minimal collateral damage. Civilized combat." He paused. We forgot that war is not meant to be civilized. It is meant to be won. 3 weeks later, General Yao stood before the Galactic Council once more. The chamber was notably emptier. Many delegates had died in the battle, and their replacements hadn't arrived yet. The siege mind has retreated to the outer rim, Clara reported, her liquid form more subdued than usual. Our analysts believe it is repairing, learning from its defeat. It will adapt, Brectus pulsed. Eventually, it will learn to defend against kinetic weapons as well. Probably, Yao agreed. But that gives you time. Time to rebuild. Time to remember that warfare isn't about using the most advanced weapons. It's about using the right weapons for the situation. The Council has voted, Brectos announced. The Vienna Nebula Accords are hereby amended. Kinetic weaponry is no longer banned. We have much to relearn about warfare that we thought we had outgrown. Kexthor, his crystalline form still cracked but healing, resonated with what might have been amusement. It seems humanity's refusal to abandon their primitive weapons was not stubbornness but wisdom. With respect, Admiral, Yao said, they're not primitive. They're fundamental. You can have all the advanced technology in the universe, but you can't ignore basic physics. Energy can be deflected, absorbed, adapted to. But mass? Mass is mass. Momentum is momentum. Newton's laws don't care about your shield technology. A lesson, Clara flowed thoughtfully, that cost us dearly to relearn. The Council has a request, Brectos pulsed. We would like human military advisors to assist in redesigning our defense strategies, to teach us what we have forgotten about warfare. Yao smiled slightly. We'd be honored, though I should warn you, humans fight dirty. We don't believe in fair fights. We believe in winning fights. Against the siege mind, Kexthor said, I believe fighting dirty is exactly what we need. 6 months later, the siege mind attacked again. This time, it encountered a very different Council fleet. Plasma lances and quantum disruptors still filled the void with their light shows. But now, mixed into the elegant energy weapons were railguns, coil guns, missile pods, and nuclear warheads. The AI's shields adapted perfectly to the energy weapons, just like before, and then took a 2-ton tungsten slug to the face at Mach 20. The battle was shorter this time, more decisive. The siege mind's mathematical perfection met human mathematical simplicity, F equals ma. After that battle, the AI stopped attacking Council space entirely. Its vast intelligence had calculated that it could adapt to any energy-based threat, given time and analysis. But you can't adapt to a rock traveling at relativistic speeds. You can only hope to get out of the way. Captain Morrison sat in his quarters on the Shanghai, reading reports of the Council's new mixed doctrine fleet strategies. Energy weapons for precision and range. Kinetic weapons for raw stopping power. Missiles for saturation attacks. The galaxy was relearning how to wage war the way their ancestors had. Before they'd gotten so advanced they'd forgotten the basics. His door chimed. Come in. Commander Okonkwo entered, carrying 2 glasses and a bottle of something that probably violated several regulations. Celebrating? Thinking, Morrison said. The Council has spent 50,000 years getting more and more advanced. Building better energy weapons. Cleaner weapons. More civilized weapons. And they almost went extinct because of it. Because they forgot that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Okonkwo agreed, pouring drinks. A slug of metal. Some chemical explosives. Nuclear fission. Tech that's hundreds of years old for us, thousands for them. Millions in some cases, Morrison said. Nuclear weapons are about as primitive as you can get in terms of technology. Just smash atoms together until they explode. And yet, they work. Okonkwo raised her glass. To humanity, the species too stubborn or too smart to throw away our oldest weapons. Morrison clinked his glass against hers. To rocks and sticks and the apes smart enough to throw them really, really hard. They drank, and Morrison looked out his viewport at the Council fleet, now bristling with weapons that would have seemed barbaric to them just a year ago. Sometimes, he thought, advancement means moving forward. And sometimes it means remembering what worked in the first place. Humans had never forgotten that lesson. The rest of the galaxy was still learning it,